Good morning. This is Kevin McQueen, president of Focus Forward, and I'm here today with Russ Bergeron. Russ is the CEO of Midwest Real Estate Data, better known to us as the Chicago MLS, and we're here to talk about the future of MLS. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning, Kevin.
So from your perspective, running the largest MLS in the country, what's different today in the MLS business compared to 1 or 2 years ago?
Well, obviously, to me personally, it's Chicago versus Southern California, which is a big change. And also, our other nickname is Mr. Ed. So if I take a look at it from the competitive level, I think we're seeing different types of competition these days. We're seeing more competition from within organized real estate. For example, in California, we've got a statewide initiative that to date has not penetrated very far, yet they do claim to be a statewide MLS. And, of course, the NAR has come up with RPR, or Realtor Property Resource, which I see as a potential real threat to MLSs because they're throwing large sums of money, tens of millions of dollars, as a matter of fact, at a product that they acquired from LPS and are now in the process of trying to acquire MLS data to supplement the information they got from LPS from the entire country. So far, I haven't seen real innovation come from that product. It's a very pretty product. I call it a pretty MLS system, but right now it only contains MLS data and public records, which is what all MLSs contain. In addition to those kinds of things, we also see continued comparison to such products as Zillow and Trulia, which, like RPR, have tens of millions of dollars of venture capitalist funds with which to grow their organizations. And both of those are more consumer-based, and therefore they garner more press. You know, you don't see many articles about MLSs out in the mainstream press because we're kind of old-fashioned, I guess, if you will. And we are constrained, more or less, from going directly to the consumer because that's not our customer base. Our customers are obviously brokers and agents. And I think the result from both of these kinds of competition is that there's been more focus on the appearance of an MLS system rather than the substance. All of these initiatives, except maybe the California one, focus on the data side of the MLS, which we all know is not the main reason for the success of MLSs. But as long as cooperation and compensation are the foundations of MLSs, I think we can remain strong. But should that go away, then I'm afraid so too will MLSs.
Wow.
And the RPR offering too is interesting in that it's kind of spawned other third parties to get into the data acquisition business, if you will, to use it for less traditional uses like fraud detection and increased public exposure. The two main ones are obviously CoreLogic and the Realtor.com Find product. So that's kind of what we're up against competitive-wise these days. So I think it's a little different atmosphere today.
It sounds like there's a lot of change in the air.
Always is, which is a good thing.
So what are your biggest challenges? What do you face in your business, and what keeps you up at night?
Well, I think it's kind of the same old thing that we've been facing for several years is how can we continue to provide a fast, accurate MLS system while at the same time addressing new features, new products, new services, and determining how best to introduce them cost-effectively to a basically static customer base who don't take well to changes of any kind. Another way to put it is how do you take your customers kicking and screaming into a more technological world? And we've struggled with that for years. And how can we create different levels of customers and support them properly and differently even, and still not lose money? Everyone says we need to become more technically proficient, but no one has addressed the lack of willingness on the part of the customer and the complications of trying to do it overnight with over 40,000 customers.
Wow. So how are these challenges impacting you and your business right now?
Well, right now, what we're looking to do is invest time and resources in beefing up the amount of data collected for each property. That is, what we're trying to do is kind of take advantage of the technological world as it is today with, what do they call it, psychographic data or geographic data and so forth. What I want to be able to do when I'm delivering information to my customers is to be able to provide them as much information about that property and its surrounding neighborhood as possible. can do this, geographically through map layers, through additional data sources, school districts, that kind of stuff, so that when you're looking at one property, you'll be able to find as much information as possible about that property. And then we're always looking to develop and implement additional products and services that can enhance the basic MLS system, so that it may not be part of the core system, but each and every customer will be able to get as little or as much data as they want and need out of our system.
That's an interesting business model.
It is. I think we're going to have to start kind of going in that direction. It is a little different than what we've looked at before. A good example is the transaction management platforms, which have never taken off. And the reason is because not each agent doesn't do that many transactions. So in order to get them to buy into it, usually it's a large brokerage that has a transaction coordinator who does all the work of coordinating the transaction. But one of the pieces that I've always thought is critical to a transaction platform are the documents. And so I know while we were at SoCal, we developed Doc Central with LPS, which is a document repository. And here at MRED, we already have a transaction platform that we're going to be beefing up in that area as well.
And yours is built right into your MLS software. Right?
Exactly. It was integrated. Actually, the DynaConnection system started as a transaction platform and morphed into an MLS system.
Well, that's excellent. So let's build on that a little bit. You're talking about the future and how you see things looking differently. Is there anything else that you see the future looking like?
Well, my dream is that we'll see larger and larger standard databases covering much larger geographic areas, so that MLSs of any size will be able to take advantage of standards and open architecture. But what we've got to stop doing is spending all of our time accommodating all the proprietary systems that we've developed over the years, and start working towards, like, I see a more multi-tiered approach where we have a standard database, a true standard database, and standard rules and an interface to that data. And then the delivery mechanism can sit on top, and it doesn't really matter what kind of delivery mechanism you have and where you get it, but it doesn't have to be proprietary, because it'll be using the standard interfaces. And then that will allow us to be able to tailor the delivery mechanism to each MLS, to each broker, to each agent, and even to the consumer eventually.
So I've heard that described as having it your way. You see your customers being able to get access in a more open way and select their software and get what they need and pay for what they want.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that, because there's no reason why a large broker couldn't brand a desktop interface, or at least a look and feel, to their brokerage and use that to access it. So, if you've got vendor A provides this product and vendor B provides another product, they should be able to choose which one works best for them, and not rely necessarily on the MLS. We'll take care of the back end part for you to make that totally invisible, and then you have kind of front end of choice, I guess we call it.
It's very exciting. So if you could,
go ahead.
If you could have your way right now, what would you or your organization be doing to prepare for the future?
Well, based on kind of that theory that I just laid out there, I would like to start regionally here in the Midwest, and try to create a Midwest property database, if you will, that covers a larger geographical area than just Chicagoland, and take that into the surrounding states and start working cooperatively with other MLSs in the area.
What's prevented that from happening in the past?
I think that's the paranoia, personalities, politics, and all the usual stuff surrounding it. It's always hard because it seems like it's threatening the other organizations. When we did the Carrots initiative in California, I think that was very successful, because what it said was, you don't have to stop being who you are. You don't have to throw away your current MLS. We're just going to give you a standard database that everyone can access, regardless of what system they're using. So it's kind of a basic version of what I was discussing earlier about the open system, so that when we turned on Carrots, the people at SoCal MLS who were using the template system didn't have to change a thing. They just had access to a lot more information overnight, and the same with the other MLSs.
Excellent. Well, I feel a big shift taking place in the industry right now, and I'm very excited about some of your ideas and where you're heading and taking your organization. Russ, I'd like to thank you for sharing some of your thoughts with us today about the future of MLS.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.